Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Momenta on the main line. We're your hosts. I'm Dr. Joanna Ilan.
And I'm Dr. Ilan Green. We're here to talk about all things health, wellness, fitness, performance, and overall well-being. Hope you enjoy the show. Our guest today is a registered dietitian based in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. In her practice, Joy of Nutrition, she provides customized advice and nutritional counseling to a diverse range of individuals with varying needs, including weight management, diabetes and prediabetes, clients struggling with disordered eating, women's health, and GI health. The thing that makes her unique in her approach is her background and experience in education. Before becoming a registered dietitian, she taught kindergarten, high school, and preschool. After some time, her love of teaching, cooking, and talking about food led her on the path to Immaculata University, where she received her degree and her RD credentialing. Now, she's able to use her love of teaching, her in-depth knowledge of medical nutrition therapy, and her creative desire to come up with innovative, delicious recipes to help others create the healthiest lifestyles they can. Outside of her practice, she's an active member of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics in the Pennsylvania Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. She also works with the Pennsylvania chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, presenting to doctors, nurses, and medical staff on the evaluation, treatment, and prevention of pediatric obesity in our communities. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joy Saudargas.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time on a Saturday morning, everyone.
Yes.
We're recording this on our weekends.
I'm not sure extra credit counts after school, but this should count for something.
I agree. This is extra credit.
So just to give some people, I know we just read through the intro, but to give some people some background on how you kind of got to where you are. We mentioned in the intro, you worked in education for some time before deciding to make a switch to working in dietetics. What was the thing that kind of inspired you to pursue this career?
You know, I was a teacher. I taught high school Spanish. I taught kindergarten mostly for most of that time, kindergarten Spanish. And I loved teaching, but just something hit me one day and I really wanted to go back to graduate school. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. Do I get a, MBA? Like what am I going back for? And I just started searching around. And I always loved talking about food and teaching people about food and teaching in general. So I just kind of did some research and one thing led to the next. And it kind of led me down this, down this path of nutrition and how you can basically use your education degree in nutrition because you have had, counseling classes, you've had all sorts of different classes, you've had education classes, obviously, all different kinds of things. And I just started going for it. And, I did some research, called the University of Immaculata, called them, asked them a few questions. One thing led to the next. And I just got into their program and it just felt right. And I still use, even to this day, after being in my private practice now for 6 years plus, I even still use, things that I've learned from my teaching degree because I'm talking to people, I'm teaching them on the daily.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to have knowledge about a subject, but it's another thing to be able to convey that in a way that somebody can understand and then be able to adapt themselves. And so, yeah, I find, kind of in the same thing as what we do. It's like, being able to take a complex subject, break it down and help somebody understand it makes that process so much easier.
Right.
So, I mean, you have a pretty extensive background helping a lot of different people in a lot of varying settings too, not just private practice, but, also inpatient, outpatient. Mm-hmm. I know there's usually a lot of like clinical rotations and dietetics programs. But right now, what types of clients are you working with most often? Like what kind of things are they coming to you for help with?
So I do see all different ages, all different, races, religions, genders, all that kind of thing. But I would say the big snapshot of my clients is probably around 35 to 55, generally speaking, maybe need some weight management, whether it's weight loss or weight gain. Maybe they've had some lab work that's come back a little bit off. They're pre-diabetic or almost pre-diabetic and diabetes runs in their family, or their cholesterol's off, or it could be something, even deeper than that, things with their thyroid. Most of my clients are right around that age range though, but I do see kids, I do see teens, and I do see older folks too, which I feel like is something that that a lot of people don't. So that kind of sets me apart. I'm not scared of kids. Obviously, I was a teacher, not scared of teenagers, even though they can be a little gnarly, but I can communicate very well with them. And moms and dads are, they're pretty happy. So yeah, the main part of my practice is that 35 to 55 age, men and women. But I do see people, out and about, all different ages. So.
That's great. Yeah, I feel that you don't really hear a lot of people that are working with children and like pediatric weight gain or, just management. And that is becoming quite an issue within the country. So that's very cool
and,
that have that.
And a lot of teenagers, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on social media, and they want to take all these supplements and they want to do all of these diets. And luckily, the ones that come to me have really good parents, and the parents are like, hold on, before we do anything crazy and spend $1,000 on this supplement, let's talk to somebody. And then we just dig through it, and figure out what they really need and what they don't need and what they've heard and, what is going to work for them. So I think that the TikTok world is great for certain things, but for teenagers, it can be really tricky.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's so influential on them. And I can't imagine how that is impacting their like day-to-day decisions,
Yes.
especially at school and, in the lunchroom even. And that's just a whole realm that I am so glad that I am a little bit beyond myself.
And also probably the role of like habits and eating habits, nutritional habits within a family can have a significant impact on the kids as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Mom and dad are the providers of the food or the nanny or grandmom, whoever's shopping, and the kids have to make the choice of what to eat. So a lot of times I'm thinking right now of a certain pod of kids that I have for some reason, my practice I find is very cyclical, where I'll have certain type of clients. Like the past 2 weeks, I've had all these people that are iron deficient, and clients that I've had for years coming back. Oh, I'm iron deficient. Fine. We help them. No big deal. But then I have these teenagers who come and I'm like, we need to make a grocery list of what you want. So that way, like, it's not just the little bites and the Oreos and, this and that, and these things that mom keeps thinking you like, but you're sick of eating, and really, are they giving you that much nutrition? How we can pair them up and make them better for you. So yeah, absolutely. Because the kids don't, if you're 13, you're not driving. So you can't just go to the Giant and get food yourself.
Yeah, it's a much more difficult process. Well, and so in that regard, and I know we kind of mentioned it before we started recording and everything, but they're the main meals where like usually people are pretty good about picking good options for like breakfast, lunch, dinner, but then there's all the in-between time. And I know that all that in-between time adds up when you're talking about like what people are bringing for snacks, what's easiest versus preparing for it. That's something that I know you work a lot with. Any particular advice on being able to kind of implement better kind of habits with a lot of the snack foods?
Absolutely. So I'm very much under the mindset that no food is off the table. If you're at a birthday party, I expect you're going to eat a piece of cake, but you're not taking half of the cake home with you. You're celebrating the moment. You're in the moment. You're not feeling guilty. It's just food. Food is just not giving us guilt. We're moving on. You eat your cake and you move on. So I do something with my clients called snobby snacking, which is just something that I developed. It's just kind of cute to say. It's kind of fun. And people are like, oh, what does that mean? Brie and like, smoked salmon and all this other stuff. And I'm like, no, it just means you're taking something basic. Like, for example, I'm thinking of basic snacks that are in my house, pretzels, goldfish, something along those lines. It's a carbohydrate. Because I feel like most folks think of snacks as chips, fruit, which is fine, pretzels, cookies. That's what they think of snack food. They don't always go to the proteins and fats of, hey, a leftover piece of chicken or some cottage cheese or a cheese stick or a hard-boiled egg. They're always in that quick, because carbs are fast. Carbs are very easy to grab. They're the first thing you see when you walk into a convenience store. You see all the chips and the soft pretzels and all that kind of stuff. But what I tell them is those things are not off limits. You just need to make the carbohydrate work for you. So you're taking a basic snack. Let's just say, I don't know, goldfish, because it's easy. You're taking a basic snack and you're pairing it with something else. So the carbohydrate is giving us a blood sugar raise. We're getting a raise in blood sugar, giving us energy, giving us power to work through a workout, to get through a long day of work, whatever it is. And if you just eat that, you're going to feel good for a little while, but then you drop back down again and you're saying to yourself, I need more. Instead of making it a snobby snack where you're pairing the carbohydrate with some sort of a protein or fat. So goldfish and a cheese stick. Something along the lines of like an apple and peanut butter, I feel like is the most basic snobby snack that people think of. Half of a sandwich. So you have the bread and you have some cheese and, some meat on there, or even just peanut butter, all different kinds of ideas. And once people start to really get that in their head, things like a lot of things I deal with, like the nighttime snacking. I don't want to say binging, that's a really negative word, but like the overeating at night where people are like, I'm just hungry. And I'm like, well, you're hungry because you didn't eat enough all day. And if you have well planned out, well thought out snacks throughout the day, blood sugars are having these gentle rises and gentle falls instead of spikes up and down, up and down, up and down. And my parents especially notice this 100% with their kids, because it's, I want goldfish, I want an apple, I want a glass of milk, I want cookies, I want the next thing, next thing, next thing. And I'm like, they need protein. Give them a hard-boiled egg, give them cheese, give them beef jerky, give them something that's going to give them tuna fish salad, give them a zap of protein, and then that evens out. Because the kids they're hungry, they're physically hungry.
It's amazing too, once you can understand what the fuel is actually doing for your body versus, the quick satisfaction of like, oh, I'm hungry, I need to satisfy this right now. We don't think beyond that snacking moment. So to understand the influence of the different types of nutrients and the effect that has on our body past our snacking period is really, it changes the way you eat entirely, which I think once people are able to understand that, it changes everything.
And the other thing too is with snobby snacking, people can go through their own cabinets. And I'm like, it's one of the first goals I usually give my clients, like, look in your house, see what you have that's a carb, see what you have that's a protein. And I always give them, 5 of each in my house. Like there's always fruit. There's always some sort of kid cracker, like, goldfish or cheddar bunnies or something, like dry cereal. There's always these kinds of things. And how can you pair them? And as soon as people have that ability, they feel very empowered, which is a big thing I do in my practice. Is I want people to feel empowered and feel relaxed around food, because food in the United States of America, especially, we live in food oceans. I mean, within a mile of my home, there are probably, in any given direction, there's probably 10 pizza shops, Mexican shops, Chinese food, Wawa. We are surrounded by food, and people are constantly just pelted with food. And I'm like, but you can still go to these places and make a decent choice. You can go to Wawa and you can have a bag of pretzels and find a cheese stick. You can go in there and have a small sandwich. Like there are things you can do that don't have to be the next level, And then once people think about that, they're like, oh, I forgot I like cottage cheese, or I forgot, I could make tuna salad on Monday and have it for a couple of days. Like I can do these things. Or I can make tofu or whatever, edamame, like all these different ideas. So it really empowers my clients to be able to make good decisions.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's important to recognize that we are surrounded by all these quick, convenient fast food options, but within those are the little gems of, in Wawa, there's still healthy choices that are around us. But like you said, as soon as you're able to recognize them, that will really empower you to make healthier choices.
Yeah. Right. I think you also kind of touched on something too, that whole divide between like good and bad food versus like really kind of looking into the details. And so I think especially in one thing that we were kind of curious to talk to you a little bit about too is the culture of diet within the US. I think it's going back, I think it's always kind of been a thing where it's, there are these trendy diets, there are, common ways to like think about what we eat, what's healthy, what's not healthy. But a lot of them are very, I guess, exclusion based, and saying like, this is good, this is bad, stick to it. But I know that realistically, well, you know better than anybody, there's probably some balance between
and they look, not to cut you off, but cue the eye roll, the that you can't hear. They make things look really sparkly and really exciting. And that's great. And I mean, there are apps out there, there are programs out there. We're going to guarantee you lose weight. And guess what? You are going to guarantee that I lose weight. And that's great. However, in 60 days, when I'm done with you, then what? Dun, dun, dun. It's like, what's next? And that's what I'm like, it's fine to do Weight Watchers. It's fine to do Noom if those are the things you really want to do. But I'm just letting you know, here's the cliff. They're just going to be like, see you later. Psh, off, like, have a good life. Where I'm around, I have clients that I've had forever, 7 years, 6 years. Like they've been my clients. We send each other Christmas cards. Like it's just the way it is. We're very connected, and I'm always here to support them through pregnancies and deaths and all different kinds of things that go on in their life, different job changes, different financial situations, all sorts of things. It's not a one size fits all approach, which I feel like is the problem with a lot of these diet programs, especially. It's like, oh, just drink all these shakes and life will be good.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I have two questions. This is a
Go for
two-part
it.
question, but first, just because you bring it up too, I think, I mean, we're both chiropractors. We recognize things within our own practice, people who have already come to see us where we feel like it would be best to refer to a dietitian.
Yep.
But for people listening, whether they're, in healthcare, in wellness, fitness, anything like that, or if they're not, but they're just kind of interested in health and wellness for their own well-being, what are some things that they should be able to notice? Like when should someone seek out a dietitian to help them? Like, what are they dealing with? What are common like symptoms or conditions or things like that dietitians might be able to help with? And then the follow-up question, just so I can make sure that we can answer it too, is a little bit about your approach and how it's specific. So I'll ask that after, but first, why do people, or why should people seek out dietitians for help?
So I think that one stereotype that people have about dietitians, it's like we went through those memes of like what people think I do, what the world thinks I do, what my colleagues do, what we really do kind of thing. I think that people think about me as working with folks who have like major eating problems, like bulimia, anorexia, those types of things. The funny part is I don't. So they need more help than I can give. They need therapy. They need really extensive help. Generally speaking, the general public, I feel like, just needs dietitians. I mean, I have athletes that come to me super healthy, don't feel like they're getting enough fuel. I have diagnosed diabetics. I have folks with cancer. I have people who just want to be vegan or vegetarian and they just have questions and they don't want to eat, vegetarian. They don't want to eat pizza for the rest of their life because they think vegetarian and that's like their fun food, or just vegetables. I have picky eaters. So it's the list is really, really, really extensive. And I hate to say like anybody needs a dietitian, but a lot is need dietitians.
Everybody,
and it's
who
not just
eats.
about weight loss, everyone eats, right? Everyone eats, everyone is aging, everyone is, everyone has genetic code that they're built from. And if it has heart disease and cancer and diabetes, like those kinds of things are quasi preventable. So I can help them to prevent diabetes. I can help them to prevent hypertension and things like that and get them to a better place.
Yeah. And so just to kind of like follow up a little bit, the approach to helping somebody is always different, right? And I know we talked about this before where you have kind of a set list of goals that you create for them.
Yes.
And I know everybody thinks about like, dietitians as working with food, but another thing is also hydration, the things that we're drinking, right? And so
Yes.
I'm curious, like, I know I'm sure the US, I mean, people in general are probably chronically dehydrated, but can you talk a little bit about, the role of hydration and everything that you're doing?
So water, I joke and say, if I had a tattoo, it'd probably say real big on my neck, like I love water, but I don't, so I won't. But eventually, there might be like stickers with a cartoon face of me with that on my neck or something, but somewhere down the pike. But water is vitally important. If your cells are not hydrated, if you are not hydrated, that is the base work of your body. You are not going to feel your best. You are not going to achieve the goals you want. And a lot of my clients, our first visit, a big part of what we talk about is water. So let me just rewind for a second. When people come to me, we do an initial assessment that is a lot of questions. I want to know everything from where you're eating, when you're eating, who's shopping, what are your favorite foods? Like I always say to people, what's something that you could never live without? For me, if somebody told me never eat pizza again, I would say, holy moly, like this is the worst day. Forget it. Like I'm done. It's my favorite thing. So those types of things I need to know, what you're passionate about. Do you like to cook? Do you hate cooking? Because if you hate cooking, I'm not going to give you recipes. What's the point? You hate to cook. So we have to brainstorm other ways, all different, how you sleep, what stresses you, all these things, physical activity. So water is a big part of that. And I will tell you, I can tell when someone is dehydrated by probably 1/4 into my assessment, because they're telling me things like, I have reflux, I don't sleep well, I have this rash that I get, and I don't know why I get it. I get headaches every single day at this time. I don't know why am I getting headaches. I have cravings for things that I can't stop. Like I can't give up the brownies. I can't stop with the Valentine's Day candy. I can't stop. And I just keep my mouth shut until I get to the section that's about water. And I will tell you, 9.999%. Like it's wild. 9.9% of the time, 99% of the time, it's just like, okay, you're dehydrated. You are dehydrated. And they're like, what? I'm like, listen, if your base work of your body is not well hydrated, you're not going to lose weight. You're not going to gain weight. Your blood pressure is going to be off. You are not going to be able to run as far as you want to run. All of these things are happening. Your cells need hydration. And no, coffee is not hydrating you. Yeah, sure. 1 cup. Okay, fine. You need water. And I always tell people, I'm like, the average adult, and I don't even know what the average adult size is anymore, but let's just say the average adult loses, I don't know, they're 5'6" and 160 pounds, just for a good number. They lose 80 ounces of fluid a day, 80. Most of that is from breathing and speaking. That's not from all my lovies that bought Pelotons and are sweating to death, on their Peloton. That's not from going out walking. That's not from doing Pilates. That is just from living. And I was a teacher, so I've lived through dehydration. You were not allowed to go pee whenever you wanted. You had 25 kindergartners. You drank when you were told because you didn't have time. And I constantly craved bagels, waffles, sweets, candies, sandwiches, like give me as much carbs as I possibly can. And then I was tired. And the whole thing was A, I wasn't balancing out my food correctly, but B, I was chronically dehydrated. And it's no fault of education system, but it's hard for teachers to drink enough water. I'm married to a teacher. I know. So it's just the way it goes. But I'm like, you guys, you've got to think about that before anything else, because people will come to me and they want a meal plan or they want a diet. And I'm like, it's just not that easy. It's really not. If it was, I would just give out meal plans all day long because I can write. That's what I went to school for. I can write meal plans from now until forever. It's not hard. But the problem is that if you're not hydrated and you're not groundwork up, you're like here trying to build down. Not a good scene. So once people hear that, they usually get thirsty and want to get a glass of water. And then, yeah, right. And then they're like, oh, I didn't think about that. So what should I do first? And I'm like, water, first thing in the morning, before your green smoothie, before your bacon, egg, and cheese muffin, whatever it is you're eating, you've got to get the water in. And I will tell you, because I've been doing this for so long, once they start hydrating well, once they start doing that, they come back to me 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, and they're like, I didn't want to believe you. And I'm like, I know. It's okay. You can say I'm crazy, but it works. It really does work. It's water and you need it. And they're like, I can tell their eyes look better. Their skin looks better. They're exercising more. They're not craving the Oreos that are in the cabinet. All these things are happening. Their migraines are down. They're sleeping better. One of the main things for me is sleep with water, because that feeling, my son, my 4-year-old calls it squirrely. We're like, why are you squirrely? Like lay down, get comfy in the bed. Like when you're like swirling around, like in the sheets, that feeling that like nothing feels comfortable, that's a sign of dehydration.
Interesting.
Where you just cannot get comfortable. You cannot relax your body. So think about it. If your cells are crying out for water, they're not getting what they need. They're not able to rest. Yeah. So it's tough.
So I have a question about that. If, I mean, even me personally, I'll ask selfishly, like where does somebody start? Like what's a good way to kind of like start to plan to kind of become more hydrated?
That's a good question.
Like? Yeah.
So I always tell people, before anything else, you've got to drink at least 8 ounces of fluid. When you do that, you are giving your body the best thing that it can get first thing in the morning. Because think about it, whether you're sleeping 4 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is that you're sleeping, you're breathing when you're sleeping, you're dehydrating. So when you wake up first thing in the morning, even my most hydrated people, myself included, you are borderline already a little bit dehydrated because you just haven't drank all night. People that wake up like that feeling in their throat where I don't know if you guys ever watched SpongeBob, but it's like SpongeBob when he goes in Sandy's bubble, the squirrel's bubble, where he's like dying, like, he's dehydrating basically. So it's the same exact feeling. When they have that feeling, you are past dehydrated. Like you are well dehydrated. So I always tell people 8 ounces first thing in the morning. I do not care if it's hot, cold. I don't care if it's in a glass next to your bed, if it's a water bottle, it really doesn't matter to me, but you've got to get that in, and you are setting yourself up for success for the rest of the day. I never will ever tell my clients, if yesterday you drank one 16.9 water bottle, tomorrow I expect you to drink 80 ounces of fluid. That's how I will lose clients very fast. They will call me and be like, you're a lunatic. What are you trying to do to me? I'm sick. My stomach hurts. I always just tell people, listen, if yesterday you drank, I don't know, like that's what I just got up right now and got my hydro flask. If yesterday you drank 20-ounce hydro flask, tomorrow let's refill it and try for half of that again. Then just see how that feels and keep going and going and going and going. Eventually, sure, your body will tell you. My body personally, I am larger than the average size person that I mentioned. So like I need over 100 ounces of water a day. That's just what my body needs. I probably drink about a gallon a day. And that's not because that's the right thing to do. That's just what my body cries out for. It needs that fluid. Things like the juices and things like that. You know, I do have people that they stab me in the heart and they say, I hate water. And I just take a deep breath and I control myself. And I'm like, okay, let's think about how we can get the water. What are other things that you like? Could you take, you know, a quarter cup of orange juice and mix it with your water? Could you use one of those liquid IVs? Could you use True Lemon is a great brand that sweetens with stevia and not any of those scary artificial sweeteners, which is another podcast. We can absolutely talk about that for days. So, but I'm telling you, like those things, if they're going to motivate you to drink more, I'm fine with that. I'm completely fine with that. It's got to happen. It's got to happen.
And I think it's interesting that you're saying, kind of encouraging your clients to go more off of feel and kind of a trial of slowly increasing your water intake, because I feel like so many people think that it's a special formula that's going to tell them, you know, you hear that like half your body weight in ounces or something is the magical equation. But I think it's kind of an experiment, just slowly increasing your intake in water and just, you know, realizing all the benefits.
Right. And there are so many factors that go into what you have in your home. You know, it's finances, it's your likes. You know, I always tell, they're like, oh, my clients will say, oh, Joy, I really, really hate yogurt. And I'm like, then why are you trying to force yourself to eat it? Why? Like, don't eat yogurt. Well, the world says it's good for you. Okay. But there are other fermented foods that have probiotics, and there are other foods that have calcium that are just as portable and just as like, that's fine. Yogurt doesn't always live in my house. I don't think it's my favorite thing in the world. I understand it's pretty nutritious, but like, you don't have to eat it just because the world says that. It's, you know, it goes back to that one size fits all approach where that is impossible. It's impossible. Besides water, everyone does need water, but you know, that is one thing. But I will tell you, all my clients with the feeling thing and what you're saying, I always tell them when they go to doctor's appointments, all these types of things, they'll ask me questions and advice for different parts of their bodies and different things. And I'm like, listen, no one else knows how you feel. Nobody else. And no one else ever will. They can say they think they know what that feels like. And maybe to them, they think they know, but nobody knows exactly how your body feels. Only you. So if something's hurting you, the doctor isn't a mind reader. You know, if you feel well hydrated, that's great at 80 ounces or 95 ounces or 40 ounces, whatever it is, that's fine. But, you know, you might notice next week, you don't feel so well hydrated at that point. And that's only what you know. No one else knows that.
And I actually find it interesting that you talk a little bit about like what people feel, because I think, I mean, in what we do, it's like musculoskeletal stuff. It's like, it's hurt. And then we have the big list of like dull, achy, throbbing, stinging, you know, but all those things are really easily discernible. You know, people can kind of like find something that, you know, a word that describes that type of like pain or discomfort or something like that. But when it comes to, you know, more internal things, some of the symptoms are a lot more diffuse and they're a lot more subtle, or they're, you know, things like fatigue and just overall kind of, you know, like senses of feeling unwell, but not really being able to discern exactly how you feel. So can you talk a little bit about some of those signs and symptoms that somebody might need to just come in to, you know, have a consultation with you or a dietitian near them, just so that they have an idea?
I mean, the fatigue is definitely a big one. And I will tell you, and I know I talk a ton about water, but the water thing, most of my clients will come to me, like I said, a couple of weeks later, and they'll say, I didn't realize how bad I was actually feeling. And they realize that now they feel so much better. And, you know, I've had clients that have, you know, quote, graduated from me. And then they call me a year later and they're like, I'm falling down again. Like, I need help. Absolutely. Come back. You know, here we go. I'm always here for you. But I feel like you have to really focus in on your body, and the world kind of wants us to mute our feelings, I feel like, about ourselves sometimes, and just like, keep going to work, keep taking care of your kids, go, 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 go. Where like, you need sometimes just to pull 5 minutes to yourself and be like, how do I feel today? You know, do I feel really tired? Do I just need a 10-minute power nap? Do I need to go out for a walk and breathe? Do I just need to take a break? You know, those types of things are major, especially nowadays. You know, the world is a very stressed out place. And I feel like we really, really need to take a minute sometimes and just breathe and relax and just assess. And I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, just do like a 5-minute quick head to toe assessment. You know, do I have a headache? Do I look outside and see that it's low pressure? Am I going to get a migraine today? You know, all of these things are things that you can prepare for. And if you are hydrated, you will already have that prepared. So you won't have to worry about like, oh, my joint hurts. Oh, I wonder why. Maybe it's dehydration. You know, every cell in your body needs fluid.
Mhm.
So does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm also curious too, because I think at least, well, personally, I feel like a lot of dietitian services are typically underutilized. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to ask a little bit of a question of like, how does somebody go about seeking, care with a dietitian? Are there certain things that they should be looking for? Are there certain things that they should be wary of?
Good question.
Being able to find like somebody who not only is qualified, but somebody who also has their best interest in mind, if that makes sense.
100%. So let's talk about the difference between a registered dietitian and a nutritionist.
Cool. Yeah.
And I feel like this is really going to help you. And then we'll talk about how to find a dietitian. So this is like the square rectangle kind of thing. Every dietitian is a nutritionist. Not every nutritionist is a dietitian.
Mhm.
And that is a major learning point right there, because people can just be peddling shakes on the street and call themselves a nutritionist. They can take one nutrition class and call themselves a nutritionist. However, let's rewind my life over 8 years in grad school. You know, I did it slowly, so it doesn't normally take that long. But, you know, it's a graduate degree. It's getting a internship that's between 9 and 12 months unpaid. It's, you know, going into hospitals, seeing some really, really interesting things, some things that you never want to see again. You know, you're in an ICU, you're in cardiac floors, you're in dialysis centers, you're in schools. I was everywhere. The Giant. I was at, you know, teaching kids, doing all sorts of fun things. That is a big thing right there. Yeah. And also we have to do continuing ed credits. We have to do things to keep our licensure. You know, we have that RD behind our name for a reason. That RD holds a lot of weight. A nutritionist can just say, oh yeah, I'm a nutritionist. Here, take these vitamins, or here, drink this shake and life will be great. Sure, fine. Maybe they've gone to a functional nutrition class and that's fine, but they're just a nutritionist. They're not a registered dietitian nutritionist. So that's something that holds a lot of weight. And I feel like people who are seeking out, and I see this a lot on Facebook, on like the mom groups and different things like that, where you'll notice more and more people will chime in and say, I know you're looking for a nutritionist for your son or daughter. Okay, fine. You want a registered dietitian though. Like, don't just get a nutritionist. And I'm always like, high five that person. Yeah, you know, way to go, knowing the difference. And it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. So yeah, that's a big difference. And finding a dietitian, which is the second part of my answer here, people that take health insurance, like I accept most health insurances. So I will have clients come to me from Aetna or Personal Choice. They called their insurance or they went on their website and they saw my name listed because I'm in network with them. And that's a great way, you know, then you know that person is a registered dietitian, because nutritionists don't take insurance. They're not, you know, they can't be credentialed with insurances as of now anyway. So
And
that's something to think about.
do they need a prescription to be able to see you, or can they
No.
reach out?
Now, my services are preventative. So I bill preventatively. Keystone Health Plan East, and I don't know who's listening all over, you know, the United States or the world or whatever, listening to this podcast, but in Pennsylvania, Keystone Health Plan East is the only one that does need a referral, but I just call it in and leave a message. It's not a big deal. It's easy.
Yeah.
And most of those clients see me at no out-of-pocket cost to them, because it is billed preventatively. So nothing out of their pocket, no deductible, no copay. They will, you know, some of them, like I said, Keystone Health Plan East needs a referral. And a lot of them will get, you know, 10, 6, 26 visits with me per benefit period, which is a lot. 26 is a whole lot. That's like every 2 weeks. So most of my clients, I would say, get 6 per year, which is still, you know, depending on when they start. If they come to me in June, that's a fantastic number. If they come to me in January, we might need, you know, 1 out of pocket or 2 out of pocket kind of thing that they'll pay for me if their insurance is done.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you kind of going into it too, because I mean, just in general, I mean, part of the reason that we even started the podcast in general was to be able to kind of provide a little bit more information about the resources that are available to people, because I think obviously, like when people work as a team in healthcare, it always benefits the person. And so when people understand that they do have teams of healthcare providers that are going to be able to help them, you know, to continue staying well, that's, I mean, in everybody's best interest. And to know that it's easy. Like the barriers to entry to get help are very few. It's just, it kind of takes enough knowledge to be able to recognize things within yourself to be able to go seek the help that you need. And yeah, the results can be life-changing, you know?
And yeah, and there are dietitians that do different things too, so there are, like, I used to work in a diabetes center. I'm not a certified diabetes educator, but if I pushed and did the testing and all that kind of stuff, I could absolutely be. More letters behind my name in my free time. Haha. But anyway, there are dietitians that work just with people with eating disorders. There are renal dietitians that work with kidney issues. I would consider myself like general wellness, where I see all sorts of different clients, and if I feel like somebody needs more help, I am always happy to refer them to somebody that's going to give them better help. Like eating disorders are number one in my mind, because I've had some clients who I know have eating disorders, and I can talk to them all day and comfort them and try to walk them through things, but they need such intense help that I cannot provide. It's a different way. It's just different. It's everything about it is different. Maybe they need inpatient, or some sort of outpatient thing or whatever it is. Everybody's a little bit different, but yeah, there's dietitians all, that do all sorts of different things. Outpatient, private practice dietitians that do all sorts of things.
Yeah. When I know there are a bunch of topics that I know we if I had you for like hours, I'd just ask you about everything. But I know
oh, yes, there's so much more we need to cover.
Oh, please, we could talk all day. I know. We could absolutely talk. We definitely need to talk about artificial sweeteners too, because I feel not today. Yeah, that's its own podcast right there.
That and GI dysfunctions and food sensitivities, and
they all tie in together.
We're gonna do another one. Don't worry.
Yeah, we could do like your funky gut podcast or something like that, and we can help people.
I think it'd be great to do one about like food labels as well, and all the the deceiving.
And there's a new food label. There's a new food label, guys. It's new-ish. It was actually supposed to be on all foods, and I remember this because it was the year my son was born, by the end of 2017. But they added something to that new food label. It's added sugar, and guess what? Juice industry said no, we don't want that. We're not putting this on our stuff, for good reason. Obviously, juice, should be fruit, and it's not. So yeah, they nixed that real fast, and finally now it's on everything. So yeah, that's definitely something to talk about. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stay tuned, everyone.
Stay tuned for all these fun things. And I'm happy to talk about supplements. I do recommend certain supplements to my clients. We could do something on that too. I always have to make sure that people know, check with your doctor first, that kind of thing.
And kind of going back to what you were saying about dietitians versus nutritionists, and having like access to a lot of, or experience in a lot of those settings. Sometimes like the recommendations might seem simple, but it also comes from combing through all of the finer details, looking at lab reports and understanding when something is truly necessary. And it does take like an understanding of the complex to be able to make simple recommendations. I think supplements kind of fall in that category as well.
Well, they do. And, I will tell you, I have quite a few clients that come to me and they say, and no offense to chiropractors or physical therapists or anybody like that, but they'll say, oh yeah, I went there and they told me to buy all these supplements. And I'm like, for what? Do you know why you're taking these things? Well, I don't know, but I stopped taking them because I take 10 of them and then my stomach hurts. Oh my God. Cue the eye roll again. I'm just like, come on. Like, they didn't even explain this to you. And I'm like, no, we had to sit down and do this. And then we'll talk about the fifth thing and the sixth and the seventh and 10th, for now, just start with these things. Like it's tricky. And I know doctors oftentimes say like, oh, it's just expensive pee, if you're taking vitamins. And I was
going to say the same thing.
I always tell people, I'm like, listen, I do not push any vitamins that I myself do not take, or I have clients that have taken them, or you have a set reason to be taking them. And I'm not telling you just run to the drugstore and buy whatever, I'm telling you, this is the brand you want. This is the dosage you want. This. That's what you need.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We're on the same page.
Because the vitamin industry is incredible. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry for good reason. I mean, it takes up like a third of CVS. Come on.
You can get the mega pack of the Flintstones gummies and
yes, you can.
All right. Well, I know we talked about a lot of fun stuff. We're definitely going to have you on again to talk about more things, because I think just in general, I always feel for professionals in the nutrition and dietetic sector, because it is probably one of the least understood healthcare industries, just because of how complex it can be, and just how diverse I think everything is. But anyway, we'll definitely do another one. Before we
Yeah, this
wrap
was
up,
fun.
we have a couple, fun like lightning round questions that we like to ask everybody.
Sure.
Yeah, ready for it?
I'll try to keep them fast because I know I can talk a lot.
That's
Go
okay.
ahead.
I think the last time, shout out to Jerry Washington. I think it ended up being like a 10 or 15-minute segment, but it was wonderful. A lot of good
Nice.
answers. Cool. All right. These are just random questions. So
Yeah.
question number one, what is the most influential book you've read?
Oh, good one. I love the book Body Kindness by Rebecca Scritchfield. She's also a dietitian. And it's actually, I just sent it to a client. I took a picture and sent it to a client yesterday. It's fantastic. Talks about loving your body, talks about different diet cycles and diet culture. She talks about something in there called spiraling up and spiraling down, which I use in my daily life and I work with my clients. A little tidbit on that would be, spiraling up. Like I always think about the holidays, or we can even use Valentine's Day since that was just this week. Husband or wife has chocolates on the table, oh, I can't have those things. I can't have those things. Spiraling down would be, oh, I already had one chocolate. I'm just going to eat them all. Floodgates are open. Forget it. Bring on all the food. I'm eating all of it. Spiral up would be, it's Valentine's Day. I'm going to have a chocolate on a napkin, enjoy every bite of it, taste every bite of it, really be in the moment, celebrate the Valentine's Day, move on. That would be, it's a fantastic book. Highly recommend.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And it's pretty. It's pretty too. So it looks nice on a coffee table.
Okay. What is a book that you're reading right now?
Oh goodness. I'm reading this book. I'm reading this book for continuing ed credits, and it's really kind of a goofy book. It's Tiny Habits. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. The guy really, really likes himself. I think his name is like BJ Fogg or BJ Jog. I forget his name. Anyway, it's interesting, but one part of the book, and I'm happy to get through this book fast if you can get my drift. It's for continuing ed credits. It's a great book. It's very deep into creating habits, but there are some things in there that I work on my clients with. Like one thing he talks about is, okay, I'm going to do this thing in the morning and I'm going to take my vitamins in the morning. Okay. It's a perfect example. And he goes, okay, are you going to take your vitamins at like when the coffee's brewing? Are you going to take your vitamins right when you wake up? Are you going to take like, he wants to pinpoint an exact time when you're going to start creating that habit, which I think is amazing because it's a good thing. Like as soon as I turn on the Keurig, I am taking my vitamins. Like at that moment, it's almost like a Pavlov's dog thing. Like, ring the bell, drool. It's the same thing, like just getting into that habit. And he also talks about, which I have a 4-year-old and I love this. He also talks about like celebrating when you do something. And I feel like as adults, like, and this is a big part of why my clients, I think, appreciate me is because I am like, you are killing it. Like, way to go. Why? Like you woke up today, you're breathing, like you won the lottery of life, you're living, like, let's go, let's seize the day. And they're like, but I only lost a half a pound. And I'm like, that's a half pound. Like, that's awesome. Like celebrate, and my son will celebrate the tiniest things, that he can do. And we forget to do that. And that's what this guy talks about in this Tiny Habits book. And he's like, that might just be like, yeah, way to go self, pat yourself on the back. Or that might be like, yeah, I did something nice for myself. I did a yoga class as or whatever it is, it could just be like pushing your fist in the air, like, yeah, I won, whatever. But it's an interesting book.
Yeah, I think it's funny you kind of mentioned because it's like they can have such fantastic points that are so worth reading the whole book. And no offense to the author, like I've never written a book. I don't know how challenging that is, but sometimes you kind of finish a book like that where you're like, I took these 3 things away from it, but it probably could have just been like a series of really good blogs,
Correct.
like rather than full of everything else.
And I am trying to take away more from it. So, and it is a continuing ed credit thing that I have to read for continuing ed that I chose myself. So I'm just, finishing through with what I committed to.
Okay, so next question, which I'm actually really curious for you too.
This is a good one for you.
Yeah. If you could have any meal delivered to your door tonight from anywhere in the world, what would it be?
Probably sushi.
Ooh.
Like really, really good sushi roll. Like those big rolls that you just shove the whole thing in your mouth and it's like this giant bite of love. That would be what I would want delivered.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I could
really good sushi with some miso soup and seaweed salad too.
Oh, great choice.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would that advice be?
Don't doubt yourself. And don't listen to what others say around doubting yourself. If that makes sense. And another thing too, if you are trying to learn a foreign language solidly, you need to go abroad for a whole entire semester. And it's okay to be an undergrad for more than 4 years. All of those things combined.
Yeah.
Yes, that is, I think, very valuable to understand.
Yeah, mainly because I was an education major at Villanova, and they told us that we couldn't go abroad. And if I really would have thought about it, I would have just said, I can go abroad. I'm just going to be in school for 4.5 years instead of 4, you know? So, and then my Spanish would be better than it is. So there's that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. I feel like, especially during that time, it's like, now's the time to do it, you know? So, yeah.
All of my college kids that I counsel, I tell them that. I'm like, listen, if there's something you really want, now is the time. You're not married. You don't have any kids. Fire away. Who cares? You know, who cares if you're in school for 7 years? Who cares?
Yeah.
Because then you really know what you want to do. And I know that sounds so goofy, but it's true.
No, it is.
It's true.
You know,
it truly is. We're so young when we're in college, and for us to think
you have no clue what you're doing with your life.
Yeah, we
have
don't
no
know.
clue.
No idea. Take the time. Absolutely.
None.
Yeah.
You have, and I say to people all the time, I'm like, so what do you want to be when you grow up? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, good for you. You'll figure it out.
Well, cool.
It's true.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think, I think especially going through school, there's always this mindset of just like, you know, you're always looking forward to like the final exams and then graduation and then what's the next step, and
just get through it. That's right. Like, I just need to get through this. And I'm like, no, you should be enjoying it and really like learning something and being like, oh, this is for me or this isn't for me, you know? So yeah.
That's true.
Okay. Well, Joy, tell us where people can find you, your, Instagram or your website.
So I do have TikTok too. That's a new
thing.
At 43 years old, I do have a TikTok. And it's actually kind of fun. So they can find me on Instagram. And you could either search my name, Joy Saudargas, or I think my Instagram is _Joy_of_nutrition. That's on Instagram. That's where most of my like posts are. I'm also on Facebook, the Joy of Nutrition LLC, and TikTok, I think, is the Joy of Nutrition. But yeah, I do post pretty regularly on there. Sometimes I have like things that I do with other folks like you guys that I post on there and different stuff like that. I am all virtual. So that, which I think is something different too for clients. It makes scheduling really easy. Like this weekend to not have any, you guys are my only appointment this weekend, which is kind of unheard of, but I was like, I'm really taking a vacation this weekend. So I do have weekend appointments. But I needed the extra credit, right? This is extra credit. So I normally do have weekend appointments. I do have evening appointments. I don't usually start before 9:30 just because I'm taking my son to preschool in the morning. And I don't want to give that up because I love that. So the best way to get me is email joy at the joy of nutrition.net. Or you can go on my website and there's a Google form, thejoynutrition.net. You can go on there and fill out the Google form. I'm very, very good at responding back to people with less than 24 hours, just because I want to make sure they know a real person is on the other side. Or they can call me, you can always call my business. So that's fine.
Yeah. Cool. And then do you have anything that you're working on, any projects, any resources or anything like that you want people to know about or keep an eye out for?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm always loosely compiling a cookbook.
Nice.
Going to be called Naked Batch Cooking. You're fully dressed, but your food is naked. That's the whole thing of it. But I am working on that. So I'm always looking for cool new recipes, just different things. I follow a woman on Instagram that I absolutely adore, Hip Foodie Mom. And I think she's actually on the main line. I think she lives in Malvern.
Yeah.
And does the most amazing cooking. And she just like all this Korean cooking, beautiful, beautiful food. So I really want to get into more of that type of cooking. That is something I'm working on. Just because it's anybody can put soy sauce on food, but to really get like the kimchi and all the things together and all these different ideas is just so neat to watch. So that's some things I'm working on.
Cool. Yeah, we'll link all the contacts so people can find you and everything. Sure. And thank you so much for taking the time, especially on a vacation weekend. We really appreciate it. I know
it's extra credit.
Yeah. But you gave a lot of really, really helpful information. I have a glass of water sitting right in front of me that I can't wait to drink.
Yay. You guys will be chugging away. Good. Yeah. Stay hydrated. Thanks for having me on so much. Yeah. I appreciate it.
We will definitely have you back. We've I have an endless list of topics I want to discuss. So stay tuned.
Yeah, I'm already like jotting them down in a little mental note.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Love it.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
All right. Bye-bye.